talk about quickly, throw out
WandaVision.
WandaVision.
I just want to say, like, okay, if you haven't watched WandaVision or if you care about WandaVision spoilers, go watch last week's episode and then come back to this moment. But yeah, we're going to spoil last week's WandaVision. Evan Peters, I just have one big question. Like, what does this mean? Like, I know that we, the audience, know that Evan Peters has shown up on WandaVision playing the same character, Quicksilver, that in this MCU was played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. So it's like it hints at a multiverse thing, but if you start to think about what that actually means for the MCU, it feels like I don't picture them wanting to introduce X-Men characters from the other movies. You know what I mean? I don't picture them wanting to do it this way. So there's something else going on than just this is the beginning of a whole multiverse, and now we're going to see Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. I think they want to do their own rollout and their own casting and all that for these characters. So what does this mean that Evan Peters is basically seemingly playing Quicksilver in this, but it's the version from the Fox X-Men films? What does that say to you about the universe?
I think this is not a real person. I don't think this is her brother as she knows him. And I think that I think that I have a theory that the town is a training ground. And I think that whoever is manipulating her is teaching her how to do things, how to reanimate things, how to create babies on the fly, how to do all this stuff. And I think one of the things that she's going to be manipulated into doing is ripping open the universe. I think the idea that this is her brother and it's him from another universe or multiverse is a manipulation to get her to actually access another universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a training ground. And I think that Agnes is the person that is controlling her and getting her to gain the ability to do these things. I think that's what this was always. The town has always been a training ground. And Agnes is the kind of conductor. Yeah.
And Agnes, if you're listening and you don't know the character's name, that's the Catherine Hahn character who's always popping up, who seems like she's a victim of the same thing the other denizens of Westview are victims of. But you're right. It could be like laying the seeds for a big reveal that I do think there's more to her than we're seeing for sure.
So.
I have not yet decided. I don't really have a theory. What about you, Steve? Do you have like a unifying theory of what that all means? Even what Ronald just said makes sense to me, but I don't know what it means.
Yeah. Like I've read a couple different theories. Like that's a pretty logical one, and I'd be interested to see that happen, obviously, because I'd love to see more Catherine Hahn. But yeah, I don't know really what it means, to be honest with you. And I honestly, like, for the first time in a long time, I'm not really trying to figure it out ahead of time, to be honest with you. Like, obviously you see that reveal and you're like, wow, that's pretty wild. Is it like the, multiverse? Is it pulling in the character from the X-Men, the Matthew Vaughn X-Men movies? Is it something else? Or is this just literally like a joke, like these, sitcoms had, like how simply they would recast someone and just move on,
right?
Like
that's what I'm saying. Happen. Like, is it just a wink to the viewers that we know this guy played Quicksilver? That feels a little shallow for them, but I do think it could be something less like reality shaking than people are assuming.
Maybe it doesn't need to be substantial. Maybe it is. I mean, it seems like, I don't know. Like that would be kind of. I feel like that would be kind of like a disappointment.
It'd be cheap
to me personally. Yeah, very, and especially because, that Quicksilver was great in those X-Men movies. Like he is great in those, those two movies that he's in, especially the first one. But I don't really know. I mean, like I'm kind of open to it being a big deal, but it could be something simple. I mean, but admittedly, like I said, like week to week, this is the first experience for me with these like Marvel things. It's like, between movies, we always talk about how the movies are like so episodic and they're like just a massive TV show. We have all this time to like think about what everything means and where is it going. But like, I'm kind of along for this week to week ride of just being like, I'm just going to watch it in a couple of days and see what fucking happens.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Actually,
it's nice.
I think it's really fun that like now that it's kind of like gotten past episode 4, 5, and by the time this comes out, we'll know more. It's kind of kicked it up a bit, and I really am digging kind of like how much the pacing has changed on the show, and like we really are. kind of caught up to the time, and like we're not kind of bouncing in and out of, you know, somebody else's perspective in scenes that we've already seen. But I'm very, very curious to see what that means. And again, I would love to see what you're saying, Ronald, be true also, because I love Catherine Hahn and anything, and she's been great in the show so far. So it'd be cool to see her.
So question to both of you: do you want to see more familiar favorites from the X-Men movies pop up, or do you want this to be somehow, even if he's Quicksilver, even if this is a multiverse thing, do you want to see a contained thing where they still get to somehow down the road roll out and surprise us with new castings, new characters, new ways of doing the X-Men? Like, do you want the Fox X-Men suddenly in your MCU? Is this like chocolate and peanut butter? Will it taste great together?
Good question. I would say maybe some of it.
I think we all know Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart is who we're talking about.
Yeah. You're like, you wanted to see them all day.
I don't know, James Marsden. I'd like to see him get a chance to do Cyclops in like a really fun X-Men movie. But I don't know, something about that just feels. Yeah. What do you think, Ronald? Does it seem like the way they do it?
Yeah, I think what's really cool, and this is kind of what we were talking about, the DC versus Marvel thing. I don't really like to pit them against each other, but they've also both tackled multiverses.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm noticing is, they take something that you've known before, like, everybody who's read a comic book, these comic books knows about House of M and stuff like that, and the Vision comics and stuff like that. And they take that and they flip it on its head with the resources that they have, and they make it work in a really cool way. So, sure, what happened. If you look up, you can even look it up. Comic historian, there's a lot of places that kind of describe the storyline, the amalgamation being covered. But the fact that, we see this character means that it's gonna happen in some way, shape, or form. I think we can bet something on this. We're gonna see somebody from the old world back then. I think we're gonna see somebody big. I think maybe even I'm thinking somebody from Fantastic Four. Some people think Magneto, just because of the story
in the X-Men world. If people are listening or watching us on YouTube, hello. Is it weird for people to watch where we're never looking at our cameras? Is that just
right?
Used to this now. But the idea is that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were the only two characters that were really part of both packages, because they were Avengers to begin with, but later in the comics, they became mutants when it was revealed that they were Magneto's children. And I might be getting my timeline a little bit wrong, but they were technically part of the Avengers character package that Marvel retained the rights to, and they were part of the X-Men, Fantastic Four, whatever continuum package that Fox had, and that meant they were two of the only characters that could be in both worlds. So you had a Scarlet Witch and a Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, and then they had them in these movies too. The only difference was they wouldn't call them mutants in the MCU. I guess now they can do that. They can do all kinds of things they couldn't do before that are subtle. But yeah, bringing in like one of those actors that's like a non-subtle thing to do. That could be the character reveal we were talking about when we were saying what's going to be the supposed Luke Skywalker from Mandalorian esque moment at the end of WandaVision's first season. What if it's Patrick Stewart? What if it's that kind of reveal? Or so cool. James McAvoy or Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender. I don't think it's any of those people, because that kind of makes waves. I mean, there was actually news about Evan Peters being maybe on this project. There's been rumors, because he was on the set or he was on a cast list or something, but people didn't know if he was going to be playing the character we know or something new. So yeah, we don't know what they're doing. And you're right, Steve, they can keep all this under their hat, because the way they market these series is not like marketing a movie where you have to really convince people of a lot. You just get people hooked on. It says Marvel. It's got the actors from the movies in it. Boom, I'm watching it. Each week they reveal more of, I always say, like, this is what would be in the trailer if they were trying to market this whole idea. We would be getting hints of stuff that we just don't know yet because of the way this is being rolled out. And I think that does make it fun. Did you guys see the Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer?